going to turn it over to Dr. Dror. He will be obviously the solo speaker here and one that we want to pay attention to, and he is the founder of the Paley Institute. So Dr. Dror, it's over to you.
You know, it's funny, coming here, seeing everyone speaking off the cuff, and I never read a lecture. But for this, I prepared a lecture, and I am going to read it, which is not typical of me, but I think the message I wanted to get across was very crisp, and if you'll permit me, I will kind of read my thoughts as we go through this. And first lecture is going to have slides, so maybe have you look at something different than just me. So good morning, and it's almost good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, leaders in healthcare and business, and honored guests. My name's Dr. Dror Paley. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I save limbs. I want to introduce you, slide, to Marion. Marion was born, and her parents received the news that every parent fears. Your child was born with a birth defect. Marion was born with congenital femoral deficiency, also known as CFD, missing a large part of her femur and her knee joint. Her type of CFD is so rare it occurs 1 in every 4 million births. If left untreated, Marion would never walk or run normally, and by adulthood would have one leg 12 inches shorter than the other and a severely crooked knee that couldn't bend or straighten. Marion was born in the remote Pacific island of New Caledonia. It's a French colony. Her parents were advised by doctors in Australia to amputate her leg at 12 months of age. The family refused an amputation and found me online. At age 3, she came to West Palm Beach, Florida, that's where I practice, to undergo a specialized surgery. I had pioneered the surgery to save limbs and reconstruct the femur and knee in patients like Marion. Slide. Now, medical tourism patients like Marion have different needs than local patients. During our initial consult, I spoke with the family in their native French. Our concierge team guided Marion and her family, who had to relocate 8,000 miles to West Palm Beach for a full year, rent an apartment, arrange schooling for their other children. Our concierge team helped the family secure funding for the surgery from the French government and receive a grant from the Paley Institute non-for-profit foundation towards their living expenses. Slide. It was a complicated surgery, but as you can see, the results were outstanding. And with her new leg, Marion was able to participate in normal activities, including karate, gymnastics, and dance. She's now 14-year-old and living an active, normal life in New Caledonia. Her bleak original prognosis became a brilliant one, all because she was able to travel to seek out the best medical care. Slide. Over the past 40 years, I have personally treated over 30,000 patients with impossible problems like Marion from all over the world. I specialize in a type of orthopedics called limb lengthening and deformity reconstruction. I attach metal devices to patients' bones, break the bones in particular right places, and pull the bones apart, reposition and straighten them, and they will then naturally regenerate bone and soft tissues. Using this method, we can correct nearly all congenital, developmental, or post-traumatic bone maladies. Slide. I helped pioneer this specialty that's revolutionized orthopedics. The technique was originally invented behind the Iron Curtain by a brilliant Soviet doctor named Gavril Abramovich Ilizarov. I traveled to Siberia in 1986 to study with him. This is a picture of me when I was 30. I wish I still had that much hair. That kind of regeneration we have not succeeded in. Slide. I popularized and developed the technique around the world. I literally wrote the book on the subject, actually 8 of them. Since then, I've created over 100 new surgical procedures, published over 200 peer-reviewed articles, and built the single largest orthopedic medical tourism practice in the world. Slide. I am the founder and CEO of the Paley Institute, headquartered in West Palm Beach, Florida. Every year, we treat thousands of domestic and international medical tourism patients who make the pilgrimage to be treated by the best of the best doctors in nearly every orthopedic subspecialty. We keep this map in our office and invite patients to stick a pin in their home country. Our patients hail from 6 continents, over 110 countries, and all 50 states. Our 28 surgeons provide world-class orthopedic care with compassion and unparalleled service. Slide. You know, medical tourism is nothing new. As far back as ancient Greece, sick pilgrims would travel to the city of Epidaurus to visit the temple of Asclepius, the god of healing and medicine, in search of a cure. You may recognize his serpent staff, which to this day is the universal symbol of medicine. Slide. In the past 20 years, as travel has become progressively easier and more affordable, medical tourism has emerged as a major healthcare trend. Medical tourism today generates over $38 billion annually, and healthcare analysts predict that number will quadruple in the next 6 years. Simply put, medical tourism will play a huge role in the future of healthcare. Slide. But this huge bucket of medical tourism really encompasses 2 trends that couldn't be more different. On the one hand, you have budget medical tourism, and on the other, what I like to call apex medical tourism. I won't spend too much time touching on budget medical tourism because I think we're all familiar with the stories of Colombia becoming an international hub for cosmetic plastic surgery and Turkey for hair transplants. The driving factor for patients for budget medical tourism is affordability. Slide. The other side, apex medical tourism, is driven by quality. Patients seeking out the best of the best care. Apex medical tourism offers the most advanced procedures, the highest success rates, and the lowest chances of complications. It's driven by brand name hospitals, cutting-edge procedures, and increasingly a select few doctors with reputations bigger than any institution. That is what can transcend international borders. And really it makes sense. When you're talking about life-changing medical care, it's worth it to get on a plane. What is your or your child's health worth? Slide. Starting 38 years ago, I stumbled into the world of medical tourism by accident. I'll give you an example. CFD type 4, which Marion suffered from, appears only 1 out of 4 million births. When you have a 1 in a million plus problem, you can't go to the local pediatric orthopedic surgeon who likely has never seen such a patient because it's so rare. Today, there may be 2 doctors in the world who could have successfully reconstructed Marion's leg. Her parents had to choose between amputation or traveling to seek an alternative. Over the years, Marion and thousands of patients like her from around the world have sought out my care to treat rare and complicated diseases from the world's expert. Slide. From 2001 to 2009, I watched an influx of international patients completely transform my hospital. When I joined Sinai Hospital, Community Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, it was a strong local hospital with no medical tourism. After moving to Sinai, my practice elevated the hospital to number 2 in US News and World Report rankings for orthopedics. My medical tourism patients who sought out my reputation as a doctor became a flywheel bolstering the Sinai brand and funding every other department of the hospital. Slide. Famous hospital brands have long attracted medical tourism. It's a virtuous cycle. Reputation builds medical tourism, and international patients burnish reputation. While this is great for the hospital, there are some downsides for their doctors. Slide. As a doctor at a major institution, treating a medical tourism patient is less convenient than treating a local patient. Patients frequently require translators, housing, special patient services. They have less flexibility with scheduling and require cultural sensitivity that doctors may or may not be properly trained for. While the hospital makes more money on these international patients, the doctor receives no additional compensation for the additional workload and inconvenience. For the exceptional doctors driving innovation, creating new devices, new surgeries, new treatments, and attracting international patients, they give the institutions far more than they get back. With fixed salaries, limited incentives, no profit from ancillaries, and institution-owned shares of grants and IP, extraordinary doctors are treated like everyone else, unable to monetize their reputations and unable to share in the windfalls they bring in. Slide. After all, an affiliation with HSS or Mayo Clinic cannot turn an average surgeon into an extraordinary one. But as my colleagues and I proved in Baltimore, exceptional surgeons can turn any institution into a destination. We elevate our institutions. They don't elevate us. Slide. I was an academic and institutionalized physician for 2 decades. I sat in the ivory tower and drank the Kool-Aid. Private practice was anathema to everything I thought and believed in. But as I saw my medical tourism boost the reputation of the entire institution, I felt ready to test the hypothesis that the doctor's brand is more powerful than the hospital. In 2009, I left Baltimore and launched a private practice under my own brand, the Paley Institute, in partnership with Tenet Healthcare, a Fortune 500 company based in Dallas. Slide. I leased medical space at one of their local regional hospitals in West Palm Beach, Florida, and transformed it into the first Paley Institute. St. Mary's Medical Center and Palm Beach Children's Hospital have served the community for over 90 years, but were virtually unheard of outside the 30-mile radius. 16 years later, the Paley Institute has transformed St. Mary's Medical Center and the city of West Palm Beach into a destination hospital and city, and the jewel in the Tenet Healthcare's system's crown. Tenet takes a lot of pride in its partnership with the Paley Institute, an entity quite different than their usual community-based healthcare priorities. Slide. I knew I wanted the Paley Institute to be a beacon of medical tourism. First, I had to build my team. I knew patients would come from all over the world to see me. But when it came to recruiting other doctors, I had to look for physicians like me, those who attracted medical tourism. Who is the Paley of spine surgery? I asked myself this question for every orthopedic subspecialty. It was like building the Avengers of orthopedic surgery. Slide. Our group includes doctors like Dr. Munjed Al-Mudaris, a surgical pioneer in the field of osseointegration, who invented an astonishing surgical technique that allows prosthetic limbs to be directly anchored to the skeleton for amputees. Dr. Al-Mudaris was already one of the most highly decorated doctors in Australia when we recruited him. He was actually decorated by the Queen. He is the guy for his subspecialty. Slide. Or Dr. David Feldman, who can correct even the most severe spinal deformities in children that most others consider impossible to fix. He left his position as head of pediatric orthopedics at NYU to join the Paley Institute. Slide. Or Dr. Tom Minus, who introduced cartilage transplantation to the United States 30 years ago and has literally written the book on the subject. We recruited him from the Brigham and Women's Hospital at Harvard University. Slide. Or Dr. John Levy, a pioneer in shoulder replacement, Dr. Brad Lamb, whose diabetic Charcot foot surgery avoids amputation, Dr. Matt Dobbs, perhaps the best-known club foot surgeon, Dr. Jeff Cantor, whose revolutionary inside-out technique for spinal stenosis is the most minimally invasive and fastest to recover from in the world, Dr. Steve Quinnen, who has pioneered the most advanced techniques for treating post-traumatic bone loss from motor vehicle accidents. Slide. I could go on. If you need orthopedic surgery, no matter what kind, we have a doctor pushing the boundaries of their subspecialty. These are the doctors worth traveling for. Slide. As we built our practices, I considered the different needs that medical tourism patients face. The Paley Institute is tailor-built to meet their unique needs. Our concierge team act as navigators for our patients at a standard that few hospitals could possibly equal. They help families find ways to afford their surgeries, whether through insurance, national health funds, international foundations, or fundraising campaigns. They assist patients with relocation, helping them find housing, get their kids into local schools. For families with financial assistance needs, our concierge team works with the Paley Institute non-for-profit to give them grants towards the cost of living locally. We assure every non-English speaking patient has a translator in every consultation with no additional waiting time for the patient or the doctor. Most essentially, our patient navigators ensure that the process is less stressful, compassionate, and culturally sensitive. They support and guide our patients on their journeys every step of the way. Slide. Apex Medical Tourism patients tend to be a higher payer mix. They often have better commercial insurance, funding from departments of health, international foundations, fundraising, or are self-paid. In our private practice model, our doctors are incentivized to handle medical tourism. Unlike at teaching hospitals, there's no institutional tax. Our physicians have direct ownership in our ancillaries like physical therapy, radiology, orthotics, prosthetics, and ambulatory surgery centers. This allows us to invest in our own practice, its ancillary services, and even fund those in need with compliant financial aid. Slide. And even with all that, not all patients are willing or able to make a trip to the United States and relocate for months. I realize that medical tourism doesn't mean having to come here if we are willing and able to go there. We open Paley Institutes in Europe, the Middle East, South America, and starting next year in Australia. For example, our Abu Dhabi Institute attracts patients from all over the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Russia, creating a regional travel hub that may be more convenient than traveling to West Palm Beach. Slide. When a center like Cleveland Clinic opens in Abu Dhabi, you get the brand, but likely none of the academic superstars that staff their flagship in Cleveland. The same when HSS opened in my city, West Palm Beach. To me, that's paying for Michelin and getting McDonald's. That's franchise medicine, not apex medicine. Slide. In contrast, every Paley Institute location is staffed with Paley Institute trained surgeons. Our superstar doctors from our Florida flagship regularly travel to every one of our satellite institutes to see patients and perform surgeries. It guarantees that decisions are made by world-class surgeons and not just local practitioners. You get the apex medicine experience you expect from the name. Slide. People often ask why I'm so driven to expand my model of apex medical tourism, and my answer is simple. It's not the money, although money is certainly a nice byproduct. It's not even the opportunity to save so many limbs or treat so many people like Marion who might not have had access to such complex care locally, although that is the most gratifying part of my job. Building a robust medical tourism practice actually incentivizes innovation. Slide. In many places, teaching hospitals and universities haven't come up with the times, especially in this new climate of decreased government funding for research. Universities can no longer be the mothers of invention they once were. Many brilliant institution-employed doctors have been ensconced there for years, buried under paperwork and chained to a fixed salary as they generate huge profits for their institutions, which are often spent on growing bureaucratic management structures. Our robust medical tourism practice has replaced fickle institutional funding with a global, stable, and consistent financial structure that creates and rewards innovation and reputation at every step. Slide. In the first 22 years of my career in traditional medical institutions, I would spend about 30% of my time scraping and scrapping for enough grants and funding to support my research. When I started the Paley Institute, I didn't leave the research behind. If anything, I stepped on the gas. fully incentivized to create new procedures and devices and not be beholden to the internecine politics of an institution, I fund most of my own research. Since then, I have founded and sold 6 biotech companies and about to sell my 7th, and invented more than 15 new implantable devices, most of which are on the market today. I spend 0% of my time writing grants and begging for money. The rest of our docs are the same, despite one of them also having an R01 NIH grant. And by the way, Robert, if you're in the audience, my success rate is 100%, not 80. Slide. At the Paley Institute, we've designed our medical tourism model to be the engine that drives innovation of new ideas, devices, surgical treatments, and better care for everyone. Not every good doctor can do this, and even wants to do this, but in the traditional academic model, how many super talented doctors are being held back by an antiquated system? When you perform a surgery, you can change one person's life. When you invent a surgery, you change the prognosis of a group of patients. When you teach others to perform that new surgery, you extend your reach, not just for the patient in front of you, but countless patients around the country and the world. This gives many people like Marion the chance to stand on their own 2 feet and live life to the fullest. Slide, thank you.